Saturday morning, Luis Alvarez joins us once again on Power Talk Radio as we get a chance to talk technology. Luis, welcome back to the program and welcome to the Experts segment.
Thank you, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here as always.
Yeah. So we have a couple interesting things to talk about today. One of the most interesting ones is that I think this is a challenge that parents worldwide have, and that is trying to keep their kids from just doing nothing but playing video games all day long. You know, generations ago, we used to worry about kids sitting in front of the television set and not doing anything else. And now it's kind of shifted from the TV set to video games. In fact, a lot of kids will get devices that'll interface with the television, and they'll sit in front of the TV and play video games instead of doing anything else. But in China, the government has become very aggressive about wanting to limit the amount of online time that minors, kids under 18, can spend playing those online video games. Some folks would say that it's pretty draconian, but what are the Chinese doing, and is it working for them?
Well, it's a brand new rule, so we'll have to wait and see if it works and how they can enforce it, quite frankly. But what the Chinese government has ordered is that online gaming companies can only allow people under 18 to play for 1 hour a day on Fridays, weekends, and holidays. So really limiting it most weeks to just 3 hours of online time playing games on the weekends. And they can only play those games from 8 to 9 p.m. after school, after homework, and before they go to bed. The question is, how are they going to enforce this? And of course, it's China. So unlike here, where the companies themselves would have some say in all of this, the companies are forced to adhere to this policy. So they're going to try to develop all sorts of technology like facial recognition systems to make sure the students aren't logging in or kids aren't logging in under multiple names. They're going to make sure that they properly track their ages and all sorts of stuff. But it's really just the latest in the crackdown on tech that China has decided to embark on over the course of the last couple of years. So we'll see how it works.
One of the things that they're looking at too, I guess, is that they are attempting to, what they feel is to ensure the mental health and physical health of their children, because they see as a real threat, I guess, to the national character or just to physical readiness, that children would basically adopt an indolent lifestyle and one without hardly any physical activity. And it's an interesting idea because in this country, I mean, you look at a lot of kids now and you see how physically soft they look because they do spend so much time in front of video games and they don't spend that time outside playing. So when you look at physical fitness, I think there's a direct correlation around the world to the physical fitness of children and how much time they spend in front of video games. It just has to be, because when you look at class pictures and you see kids, you see a lot more obese children and heavy children today than you saw, say, a generation or 2 generations ago.
The food we eat is getting more nutritious, and that's air quotes, nutritious. We're becoming more sedentary. That partly is to blame because of things like gaming. But in China, they have a very unique situation that, isn't really known outside the country. And that's that millennials who are older now, obviously they're not 18 and under, but this whole generation of millennials in China has kind of rebelled against their parents' kind of play hard work ethic. So that they have this, what they call the lie flat generation, where they just basically rejected this notion that you have to work, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week in order to be successful. And instead, they're just kind of saying, hey, I'll take what I can get and be happy with it. And I think China is alarmed by that, and they blame technology for a lot of that behavior. The fact that these folks can interact and create their own groups using social media and play games all day and just not be as productive as earlier generations is really starting to concern the Chinese government. And I think this is an example of how they're fighting back.
Right. Yeah. More and more Chinese 20-somethings rejecting the rat race right now, and they don't want to work themselves to death.
No, they prefer to just do nothing rather than be like their parents. And, the Chinese crackdown on technology goes beyond just gaming. They've started to really force technology companies to make their algorithms, how they provide content to people, more transparent and more public. Some people say that their rules are stricter than European Union's GDPR privacy rules, which is considered to be some of the strictest in the world. And all of this is to try to rein in technology and make the Chinese government still reign supreme rather than let tech take over.
Right. Interesting. Hey, one other thing, speaking of tech, that we can touch before we wrap up here, and that is, what's the best purchase you've ever made for $100 or less? Maybe it was a rice cooker or a used back scratcher. What are we talking about here?
Just even tech companies are being forced to abandon IPOs or initial public offerings outside of China because the Chinese government has made it so strict that it's just impossible for investors to have any sort of reliable measure of how these companies are doing, which may work out for China or may not. We'll see.
All right, we'll stay on top of these stories. Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has joined us here on Power Talk Radio. Online, it's alvareztg.com. At AlvarezTG is the Twitter handle. And Luis, do you have that toll-free number handy?
I do. It's 866-78-ITEAM. That's 866-784-8326.